All right, today what we're going to look at is how do you make a graph out of an equation that is in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is the equation we've been working with, y equals mx plus b, where m, the number that's in front of x, is your slope, and b, the number by itself with no variable, is the y-intercept or the starting value. So first thing we're going to do with all of the equations that we're going to graph is we're going to first identify with our pink highlighter what the y-intercept or the starting value is, and we are also going to look at in yellow what the slope of the line is. Once we know those two things, the graphing of it is very easy. So let's take a look at it. First equation that we have here is y equals 2/3 x plus 1. So as I said here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show there is my y-intercept. It is 1 because it's the number that is by itself with no variable. And the number that's in front of x is 2/3. So I know my y-intercept and I know my slope. Now from here, very simple process. Your y-intercept, what we have here highlighted in pink, this is where we are going to start our graph, starting value, okay? So the starting value of this graph is 1. Go over to the graph on my y-axis because it's the y-intercept. We're going to just put a point at 1. Simple enough. The starting value is 1. I put a point at 1. Now, the slope tells us where to move from there. The slope in this case is 2/3. That's a rise and a run. Rise is going to tell me how many spaces I'm going to go up or down. The run is going to tell me how many spaces I'm going to go to the right. So with a rise of 2, that's a positive 2. That means I'm going to go up 2, and I'm going to go to the right 3. Now, we go from this starting point, from this value of 1, we're just going to simply count up 2 spaces. Start here, 1, 2. And to the right 3 spaces. Start here, 1, 2, 3. We can put our point right there. That allows us to then draw our first line. Start at the y-intercept, which was 1. Just count 1, 2 up, 1, 2, 3 over. That is how we make our graph. Let's do the second equation. Y equals 2x minus 3. First thing, we have a y-intercept of minus 3 or negative 3. That is where we are going to start. The slope is 2. Now this is not a fraction, but we will talk about how we handle that once we get to that portion. So we're going to start at negative 3 again. Go to the y-axis. Count down 1, 2, 3 spaces. There's a starting point for our graph. Now in this case, our slope is 2. Now, as a fraction, 2 would be written as 2/1. What that does for us here is that tells me again, because it is positive, I'm going to go up 2 spaces, and I'm going to go to the right 1 space. So from my starting point, look at my slope, up 2, right 1. I'm just going to simply count spaces. 1, 2 spaces up, 1 space over. We've got our line graphed. Simple process. Start and just count spaces. There is our second graph. Y equals 2x minus 3. Start at negative 3. 1, 2, up, to the right 1. All right, now the last one is going to be a little different because the slope is negative. We'll talk about that as we make our graph. But first, the y-intercept of this is 4. That's where we're going to start. And the slope is negative 1/2. So just as we have done on the previous examples, we're going to start our graph at 4. So I count on the y-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4 up. There's my first point. That's where I start. The slope is -1/2. Negative means that instead of going up, I'm going to go down. And I still go to the right. The negative just tells me up or down, and since it's negative, it goes down. If it's positive, it goes up. So we're still going to be counting, but in this case, we're going to count one space down because it's negative, and to the right to put our point, and we can make our graph. Always start at the y-intercept and use the slope to tell you where to go from there. That's graphing slope-intercept equations.